If the form data is invalid, we don't want to submit that data to the server. There are several ways you can prevent form submittal if the form is invalid. One option is to disable the Save button. Just add the ng-disable directive to the button and set it to the form's $invalid property. If the form is invalid, the button is disabled. By disabling the button, the user cannot click on the button until the form data is valid. This is a common technique, but depending on your users, it could cause confusion. The user may not understand why the button is disabled or what they have to do to enable it. Instead of disabling the button, another option is to display a message when the button is clicked. This technique involves passing the form's valid state to the submit method. The submit method can then check the state of the form and display an alert message if the form is not valid. Let's try both techniques. Here we are back in WebStorm once again with the Product Edit Info View HTML page open. Let's scroll down to the Submit button. Then let's add the ng-disable directive to that button. So here we're specifying that that button should be disabled if the product form state is invalid. Let's give it a try. We'll go to Product List, we'll go to Edit, and our Save button is active. As soon as we clear out the field, we can see that it's disabled. We can no longer click on it. If we type in the first 4 letters, our message goes away, the field is valid, and our button is enabled again. So that technique works. It just makes the assumption that the user understands why the button is disabled. If you're using validation messages, as we've shown, it should be obvious why the Save button is disabled. But depending upon your users and how you're validating the data, that may not be the case. Now let's remove the ng-disable directive and change the ng-click directive to pass in whether the form is valid. So we're going to use the $valid state of the form itself. So product form.$valid. Since the product edit tags view uses the same submit method, we'll need to do the same thing for that form. So we'll go to product edit tags view. We'll find its button and we'll pass in product tags form.$valid. And we also need to modify the submit method in the controller. So we're going to go to the product edit controller, and now the submit function is taking in a parameter. We'll call it isValid. Then we'll modify the body of the function. If isValid, then we want to perform the save. Else, we want to provide an alert. Let's give this a try. We'll do the same demonstration. We'll go to Product List, edit the hammer, and now when we clear out the field, we get the error, but the button isn't disabled. But if we do click the button, we get an error message. Please correct the validation errors first. So this technique works as well. Use whichever approach works best for your users and your application.